All right. Well, hello and welcome. Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for being here with me today, and really excited to continue on as we teach in the 15 invaluable laws of growth. You know, this is one of my absolute favorite books, as I've shared with you each and every single week. This is one that has truly made a difference and an impact in my life. And hopefully over these past several weeks, that 7 weeks that we've been doing this, that this has made an impact on you. But more importantly, not what it is that you're hearing, but the question is, are you actually doing something with what you are learning? I hope you are. And so when we get started here, if you could, in the chat, type in where you are watching from. Would love to see that. I love seeing that each and every single week for us to get an idea of where you all are watching from, and so that we can do more in your area. So be sure to put your city that you're from in the chat, or country, depending on where you are. We're going to continue on today with the 15 laws. We're going to be talking about law number 7 today, the law of design. The law of design. The law of design simply says, to maximize growth, develop strategies. To maximize growth, develop strategies. Now, listen to this quote by Jim Rohn right here that I think is just profound here. It says, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what? They may have, They may have planned for you. Not much. Not much. And so, we want to make sure that we're designing our lives so that we don't fall into the design of others, or be intentional that we design our life into the design of others' lives so that we can add value and have fulfillment inside of our life as we go through this. But what we want to do today is we want to talk about developing strategies and systems. So when we're talking about design, we're going back to our very first chapter and talking about being intentional, but we want to make sure that we develop strategies, because what happens is that systems permit ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. This was something that Michael Gerber said. He says that systems permit ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. And so if you want to get more out of your life, you need to have systems in your life that help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And so today I'm going to take you through what a system should include. When you're taking a look at systems, a system can also be defined as a routine or a way that you do something. I also love the acronym for system that you may have heard before, which stands for Save Yourself Time, Energy, and Money. System. Save yourself time, energy, and money. And today, as we talk about these systems, I want to talk about what they need to include if you're going to look at a system, because we need to have a system in order to get things done and be intentional in our life. You see, the first thing that a system has to have is it must take the big picture into account. It must take the big picture into account. And what that means is that we have to know where we're going. We have to have a clear picture on where it is that we're going, because otherwise a system or a strategy does not make sense. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're not just being busy, but we're being productive. And so listen to this. It says that we may be very busy, we may be very efficient, but we will also be truly effective only when we begin with the end in mind. So where are you going? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And you have to be clear on that. You see, it's not enough to be busy. It needs to be lined up with where you want to go. So the truest and most simplest way to describe this first part of beginning with the end in mind, or the effective system taking the big picture into account, is what is it that you're actually trying to achieve? Because everything that you're trying to achieve needs to line up with where you're trying to go. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that if you have a goal to get out of debt, everything that you're doing needs to line up with that. All right? That's the big picture. The big picture is I want to get out of debt. Well, what are you reading? And it probably needs to be something about getting out of debt. What are you listening to? It probably needs to be something about getting out of debt. What are you watching on YouTube? It probably needs to be something about getting out of debt. Everything needs to line up with where it is that you're wanting to go. What you're reading, what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're thinking. All right. All of it needs to line up, because that is the big picture. Now, I love this quote. This is probably, if you get nothing else today, this is probably the best quote that I love saying, I love hearing, and I love describing this because, in essence, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a better version of our life each and every single day. And I love this quote right here. It says, unhappiness is not knowing what we want and killing ourselves to get it. Unhappiness is not knowing what we want and killing ourselves to get it. Now think about this. Each and every single day that you get up, you go to work. Each and every single day you get up to go build your business. Each and every single day you get up. Are you clear on what it is that you want? Because if you're not clear on what it is that you want, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to lack satisfaction. You're going to lack fulfillment if you're not clear on what it is that you want. I love this. Unhappiness is not knowing what you want and killing yourself to get it. I mean, come on, I could leave it right there. I can come back and see you next week because we have to get clear on what it is that we want. So first thing that a system must include is that it must take the big picture into account. The second thing that a system must include is that it must make use of priorities. It must make use of priorities. Anytime that you set a brand new goal, dream, vision, aspiration, you have to readjust your priorities. You have to readjust your priorities. Now, for me, if at the beginning of this year, I started out with, hey, I want to be a little bit healthier. All right. Now, what did that mean? It means I had to adjust my priorities. It means that I had to be a little bit more intentional about preparing some meals at the beginning of the week. It means that I had to plan a little bit more ahead of time in order to make sure that I didn't tempt myself with some of the stuff that I did not want to eat. But what it does is we have to have our priorities in place whenever we're implementing a system. We have to adjust priorities. You cannot reach a new goal or a new place with the same priorities that you had. You see, a system is of limited help if it doesn't take into account priorities. So the question you have to be asking yourself whenever you're trying to achieve something is, what is the most valuable use of my time right now? What's the most valuable use of my time right now? Not asking yourself the question, what am I doing? But changing that to ask yourself the question, what am I accomplishing? What am I accomplishing? Instead of being busy, writing out that to-do list, really take a look at your to-do list and ask yourself, what am I accomplishing by doing this on the to-do list? What am I accomplishing by doing the second thing on the to-do list? What am I accomplishing by doing this? Who does this have me becoming by doing this? And so you want to make sure that whenever you're getting ready to really look at designing your life, one, you have to look at the big picture. Two, you have to take a look at your priorities and put priorities in place that drive towards the goal, dream, or vision that you have. The third thing that a system must have is that it must have a system of measurement. It must have a system of measurement. Now, again, this is going back and saying, well, Chris, how do I measure, or how do I have what many like in the business world, a KPI to what it is? You don't have to have a specific number to it. It has to be measurable. You have to ask yourself the question of, am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I better 30 days ago than I was today? So a simple question would be, what would success look like in 30 days in the area of getting out of debt? What would success look like in the area in 30 days of having a better relationship? What would success look like in 30 days of building my business on the side, whatever the case may be? But asking yourself that question will help you get clear, number one, on that goal or the big picture. But two, it's going to allow for you to measure it. Now, if you say, hey, look, my big goal is to get out of $10,000 of debt, $100,000 of debt, whatever the case may be, that's the big goal. But if you ask yourself, hey, 30 days from now, success would be if I can knock out $500 in debt, right? That's a measurement. It's a way for you to measure it. And an effective system always takes into account measurement. The fourth thing that a system must include is application. Application means that you actually have to do something. Now, we can sit back and we can plan, we can write out an incredible to-do list, but the to-do list isn't effective if we don't do it. We can have a big picture of where we want to go, and we can write that out, and that's great. And we can figure out how to measure what success would look like for us over the next 30, 60, 90 days, a year. But then if we don't go out and do something with it, it doesn't matter. I love this. If you had the most beautiful blueprints in the world for the most spectacular home, what value would there be if there was no action plan to build it? Now, how valuable is your dream home, the blueprints? If I handed you the blueprints, the exact layout to your dream home, how valuable and how different would your situation be if you just had the blueprint? Just be a piece of paper. You can hang it up on your wall. It could be a part of your vision. It could be, but it's not going to come to pass until you begin to actually put the plans into place. So an effective system must take action, and it must take application. So as you're learning these things, as you're listening, as you're watching, as you're reading, as you learn these things, here's some questions that you can ask yourself as you're learning. The first question is, where can I use this? You learn something brand new, and you got to ask yourself a real quick application question is, well, where can I use this? Yeah, you watched a motivational video online, and then they gave you a practical tip, but then you got to ask yourself the question, where can I use this? The second question is, when can I use this? Where can I use this? When can I use this? Well, I hope that for many of you, the answer is now. The answer is now. Well, you're gonna have the opportunity next week. You're gonna have the opportunity next month, but you need to figure out where you can use this and when you can use information. And then the third one, oh, this is really good because this is where we come into application. This is where we come into multiplication. This is where we come into learning. You got to ask yourself the question, who needs to know this? Because there's something that you're going to learn today that you're going to say, somebody else needs to learn this. Who needs to know this? Hey, let me do a shameless plug here. Who do you know that needs to know and watch these past 7 weeks of videos? Share that with them. Where can you use the information? When can you use this information? Who can you share it with? Who needs to know it? All right. The fifth thing an effective system must have is organization. Organization. I love this, and this is so good. It says the number one time waster for most people is looking for things that are lost. Now, I think I love my kids. But, oh, do they come to mind when I think about this? I mean, come on. How many more? Anybody out there? Where's my sock? Where's my shoe? Where's my book? Where's my bag? I think about one of my kids said, "Well, where's my shoe? It's in your bag. Where's my bag?" The number one time waster for most people is looking for things that are lost. And so an effective system has organization. You have to get organized. And if you're not organized, you need to get somebody around you that's organized that can help you execute on everything that you do. For me, I'm fortunate. I have an incredible executive partner that is extremely organized. I'm organized and focused in the areas I need to be, but I tell you what, things go faster, things move better because I have someone around me that keeps organization, and that system works because it's organized. It's organized. And so we want to make sure that our system has organization. And then the sixth part of it that a system must have is it must have consistency. It must have consistency. It must have consistency. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but I believe the number one secret to success, the number one secret to results, the number one thing that separates the average from the above average is really simple. It's consistency. So your system needs to have consistency or create a way for you to have consistency. You see, you'll never change your life until you change something that you do daily. We've heard the phrase, the secret of your success is found in your daily routine. If I were to go back and look at your calendar for the last week, it would tell me the direction that you're headed. It would tell me the path that you're on by the calendar that you've held. So we want to be intentional about designing these systems. And so when it comes to the law of design, we simply have to make sure that we have systems in place and strategies in place in order to get to where we want to go. So those effective systems include taking the big picture into account, making use of priorities, reprioritizing what it is that you're doing in your life in order to make time for the things that make your future better. It includes measurement. How are you keeping track of that? It includes application, asking those 3 simple questions. Where can I use this information? When can I use this information? Who needs to know this information? It employs organization. It promotes consistency. If you do those things, it truly is going to help you get to where you want to go. That gets us wrapped up here for this week. Next week, I'll be back with the law of pain. And I'm so excited about teaching the law of pain because the law of pain says that good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. So I hope that you found that helpful here today. I want to ask you those 3 questions. When can you use this? How can you use this? And who needs to know about it? Hey, thanks a lot, everyone. I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.